And we want you to understand this past, present, and future conversation, because past and present, as you understand them to be, from your inner being's point of view, are all past. You say it's now, your inner being says it's past. Because what has manifested is old news. What is manifesting is what your inner being is focused upon. The energy that is flowing now, the dynamics of the energy that flow now are all that matters. And when you are a deliberate creation, you get your eye, you get your emotions, you get your awareness on your guidance system of what is flowing now. What is the direction of who you are becoming? Because, oh, friends, you are eternal beings. You might as well get used to reaching for more than has manifested. There's always going to be stuff in the process. But as humans, you want the stuff that's in the process to be out in the open where you and everybody else can see it and agree upon it, which is what slows you way, 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 way down, because you don't revel in the process. You say things, but you don't mean it. You've coined a phrase as humans, the joy is in the journey, but you don't mean it. What you mean is, I'm willing to go through the sucky journey in order to get a manifestation that I really want. And when the manifestation that I really want comes, then I will be happy. But in the meantime, I'm just going to fake it. And we say, you can't fake it because the law of attraction knows your game. The law of attraction is taking you at your vibrational offering. And so it's a wonderful thing when you begin to care about how you feel, because how you feel is your indication of your harmony with who you have become, or better said, who you are in the process of becoming, or not so well said, who you have become. Who you have become is better said, but you think it's better to say who I am becoming, but we say it's better to say who you already are, but you say it's better to say who I am becoming, because we have a disagreement on whether you have become it or not. Because from our point of view, if you have vibrationally become it, you have become it, and the rest will follow. But you say, I haven't become it until I can see it, and that's what's slowing you down. You want to see it before you believe it. And if you need to see it before you believe it, then you're just regurgitating stuff that you've already seen, and not much is changing for you. But when you can know it because of its vibrational feeling, in other words, when elation is what you're reaching for, rather than the reason for the elation, now you're cooking. When feeling love is what you're reaching for, rather than someone to love, now you're cooking. When you figure out that hooking up with your inner being's perspective about what you've launched as desire and creation, when you figure out that the better you feel, the more in the flow of the becoming you are. And as an eternal being, that's what it's all about. When you understand that there's always going to be more in the pipeline, because you're eternal, and you can't get it done. You can't get it done, you will never get it done, and you can't get it wrong. Ooh. You can't get it wrong, and the reason it can't be wrong is because it is not done. It might be in contrast. There might be something that others want to call wrong because you're not pleasing them right now. But we want you to come to the place where pleasing them is not what you are about, because pleasing them is about them shoring up their reality. They need you to be the way they need you to be so that they can look at you and feel good. And what you want to say to them is, that's your deal. Don't ask me to stand on my head so that you cannot pay attention to your own guidance. Don't ask me to be complicit in the flawed premise that our emotions should follow the manifestation. I know that our emotions lead the manifestation, that how we feel is what happens to us. How we feel is the indication. In fact, there are two indications of what you're doing vibrationally: how you're feeling while it's happening, good clues. And the other is how it's manifesting, old news. So there's pre-manifestational awareness, that's what your emotions are about. And there's post-manifestational awareness, that's what's manifesting. So now you know everything that matters. We've enjoyed this interaction immensely. We're eager to talk with you about whatever you want to talk about. There is nothing off limits. It is our absolute knowing that together we are going to take thought way beyond what it has been before. We're going to have deeper understandings about things. You're going to come into alignment with who you really are. You're going to feel greater clarity as we chew together here than you usually do, because as we play together and you focus with us, your vibration will rise, you'll hook up with your broader perspective, and you'll have clearer understanding of things. And when you leave here today, you'll be different than when you entered, because your vibration will, without question and without exception, will have shifted to a frequency closer to who you really are and what you really want. And so it's not just today that we are thrilled about. It's what comes next. It's the results of this time that we are playing together. The other day, someone wanted to talk about cause and effect, and we said, that's what that is. Higher vibration is a cause, and better life will be the effect. Raising vibration is the cause, and clearer understanding and faster manifestations. Happier is the effect. Focusing is the cause. So, what do you want to talk about?
Thank you. The things I've learned through you have absolutely contributed to me creating my ideal scene. With certainty, I know that it has.
Well, it's nice to know the rules of the game. Just understanding that you get what you think about is a big game changer, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then being able to have the awareness of, when I do that, it feels like this, and when I do that, it feels like this, and when I feel like this is what happens. This is really good stuff to know.
It feels amazing to know that we absolutely can create anything we can think of. And I'm very grateful for that. Here's my question. And I hoped one day I would actually be able to ask you this question.
Oh, we're out of time.
Here's my question. If we're certain that we do create our own ideal scene, our own reality, my question is, how can we collapse the time frame for that thought we put out there to the moment we're actually living that ideal scene? How can we shorten the length of time that it takes?
Well, you gotta admit you want it too.
Yeah. And I have identified, just through reflecting, I've noticed a trend in my life that there's, for some reason, seems to be a 2 to 4 year lag based on things that I've created.
Sometimes the lag is helpful, closing of the gap is helpful, in that more contrast causes you to fill in more details. And so your creation becomes more vibrationally complete before you start moving toward it. Actually, it's just because most of you like the drama is the reason that you do that. But the answer to your question is, how can I shorten the time distance between the desire that I've launched vibrationally and my ability to recognize it, is by improving your ability to recognize it. Because it's all perceptual. And so by improving your ability to recognize it, that means you want to be in the receptive mode more often. That's what we were talking about. If you meditate regularly, quiet your mind, feel detachment, allow your vibration to rise, now you're more often in the receiving mode. And the more you're in the receiving mode, then the more impulses will lead you to things that will lead you to things that will lead you to things. But the reason that you don't really know that that's happening already with you is because in that receiving mode, you see, it works like this. So contrast happens. You know what you don't want, you know what you do want. You launch the rocket, and then you do what you do to line up with it. You click into place vibrationally, then it manifests. Doesn't matter how long it takes. Then it manifests. But now this is the most important dynamic. Not only did what you ask for manifest, but a whole new set of contrasting experiences is now surrounding you, which is causing you to launch another, which you line up with and accomplish, and another, which you line up with, accomplish, and another, which you line up with and accomplish. So you are continually refining the details of what you are asking for. Sometimes what you're asking for is an emotional release rather than a physical thing. And so even though the physical thing didn't happen, you got the emotional release. But because you hadn't clearly identified and isolated what you were going for, then you sort of missed the clues, and so you missed the celebration that we're all having in your motion forward. We've been offering this analogy recently, and it really applies here. Because this is the distinction about you that we want you to leave this room knowing above all other things that you hear from us here today, or ever. If you look at the manifested world today, it's easy to sort into piles of behavior and creation and having. In other words, there are lots of lifestyles and philosophies that you could identify and label the population of your planet with. And most humans spend most of their time trying to do that. So there's all these piles of Republicans and Democrats and straight people and gay people and this religion and on and on and on and on and on and on and on, as you pigeonhole and identify and stand usually in your pile, pointing out the imperfection of the other piles. That's usually the purpose of the piles. Not always, but usually it's the purpose of the piles. And we want you to look through the eyes of Source and realize that there are really just two piles. There's the in this moment under the influence of Source pile, and there's in this moment under the influence of something else pile. And in every one of those piles, there's some of each. Doesn't matter how people have differentiated themselves or what they are using to push against or to stake their claim on rightness or goodness or bestness. There are only two piles, and that is in this moment, what influence am I under? So when you think about that, and only that for just a little while. Am I under the influence of my inner being or not? Which means, how do I feel? Am I lighthearted? Do I feel frisky and fun? Do I have love in my heart? Is love running down my cheeks? Am I funny? Do I have good timing? Am I glad to be alive? Am I eager to get out of bed in the morning? Am I tuned in, tapped in, turned on? Because when that is how you are mostly, then what happens is there is almost no time between the identifying of something wanted and the realization of it. Almost as fast as you can think it, something will come to evidence it. We, for a while, were playing games with you. We'd say, make a list of things that you're not worried about and just focus on them for a little bit and then watch how fast the universe brings those things to you. But if you take your issue that you've been working on for a long time, and that's what you focus on, then you bring your complicated issue forward. It's an issue, so you're not under the influence, and so it's a struggle, and so then it seems like it takes a really long time. And so here's the really powerful, important answer to your question. Humans, where did you get this? Humans, we know where you got it, but we don't want to spend a lot of time on talking about where you got it. Humans, and we don't mean to sound so blameful, but humans, what you do is you stand in almost a perpetual state of defensiveness because of all those piles. All those piles make you defensive because there are people in other piles looking at you. And because you're empathetic, you can feel them looking and you sort of kind of know what they're thinking. So you're picking up on that and then you feel defensive about it. But you got to understand, there is no assertion. There's only attraction. So when somebody thinks something and you feel defensive, it's not their offense that's getting you, it's your defense that's getting you. It's your pushing against what you think is their unwanted stuff in you that holds you in the place of not being under the influence of your inner being, because your inner being does not do that. Your inner being adores every pile. Your inner being even adores the part of the pile that's under the influence of Source and the part of the pile that in this moment isn't under the influence of Source. So how do you close the gap? You get under the influence of Source. And the more you are under the influence of Source, the faster things unfold for you.